Oh, yeah, you look really good like that.
Welcome to Silicon Valley Impact, where business insight meets startup innovation. And now, please give a warm welcome for the man, the myth, the legend, Brian Sparks!
Oh, thank you, Brian. Welcome to Silicon Valley Impact. I'm your host, Brian Sparks. The purpose of this show is to have honest conversations about what it takes to build great businesses and communities so that you can make an impact in your own. Brian, you're stepping up your game. Just when I think you hit the ceiling.
I don't think that's true.
You don't think you're there?
I'm just here, like, kind of just phoning it in.
Yeah? No.
Yeah. This is
Wow.
just me, kind of like on an average day, kind of maybe even slightly down. I'm kidding. Actually, I had a little coffee before I came in.
Well,
I had an afternoon lull, and I tried to pump it up just a little bit.
You're always bringing the heat, and I'm excited. We have all the reason in the world to be excited. We've got the Venture House happening tonight. That's going to be incredible.
That actually happened last week, Brian.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So it was great. I mean, a phenomenal success.
With a wink and a nod. It was just off.
I mean, really
the
amazing
chain,
event that you put together for there.
Thank you, Brian, and what you brought to the house was remarkable.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I also appreciated your outfit. I mean, you really brought it.
I try to step up my game from time to time. I kick off the flip flops and put on shoes every now and then. But with that being said, I put on a suit for our guest today. We have two amazing guests. I'm super excited. We have Alex Dang and SC Moatti in the house, and I want to thank you both for being here. And for those of you who don't know who these amazing people are, I will let them give their introduction. So Alex, I will start with you. Good to see you, buddy. Great to have you here.
Well, thank you, Brian. I will not be able to meet the bar of such a wonderful introduction, but my name is Alex Dang. I'm a co-author of the book, which is now a bestseller, The Venture Mindset. I used to be a partner at McKinsey here in Silicon Valley office, leading the digital business building practice. Prior to that was with Amazon, where I had a chance to launch multiple new businesses across e-commerce, AWS, AI, which is now so popular and so discussed. And was also a co-founder and a CEO of a health tech company, which was focused on the cancer treatment, helping patients and caregivers to find the right treatment and the right set of services. But the primary goal to come here is just to share what we learned with Ilya, my co-author, a professor from Stanford, about how venture capitalists make decisions and why it's so important for all of us to learn about their mindset and how it helped me as well to make some of my decisions in my career.
So interesting perspective. I love the power of contrast. You've sat in the seat of helping multiple businesses launch. You've seen it from that perspective, and now the venture mindset. So we'll kind of go back and forth with that. And we have SC Moatti here who can chime in on all of this. SC, good to have you back. You were with us in Sacramento. We were together at Dana Point at the Opal Group, and they're going to be back in San Francisco. Good to have you in the studio finally. Good to see you.
So great to be here. Thanks for inviting me. Alec, great to meet you. I obviously read the book and love it. Intro about myself. So I was born and raised in Paris, electrical engineer, Stanford MBA like you, Alec. And then the first decade of my career, I was an entrepreneur / product manager. I was early at Facebook or Meta. I was early at Siebel Systems. And then the last 10 years of my career, I decided to go and disrupt that venture capital industry. And so I'm really looking forward to some really exciting conversations with you, Alec, today. I think it's such a critical time in venture to be scaling a franchise like Mighty Capital. And then a couple of words, if you'll allow me, about Mighty Capital.
Yeah.
We invest at Series A enterprise technology companies like Amplitude, DigitalOcean, Grok. That's really hot right now. And what's unique about us is we give these companies access to a network of over 500,000 product managers. And they turn that network into a marketplace of customers, of acquirers, of talent and expertise. And so really for our investors, which are our customers, we are able to generate more liquidity faster.
I love it. We're going to come back to that, this idea, SC, of creating this huge value add. I feel like, and I'm probably going to butcher this analogy, I feel like we're in the age of a real boom in the VC market. To become a VC, they're everywhere now. It's almost like back in the 80s when the life coach boomed, right? And now there's life coaches everywhere. And now with these VC factories, it's becoming more and more competitive in the terms of having access to great startups, having access to funding, and building trust with the market. And you've really done well. I'm going to ask you about the new live you've been doing on LinkedIn with the comments, because you're loving doing that. You're having a lot of fun. So we'll get to that. But let's kick off talking a little bit about the venture mindset. Give us a little run up, Alex, about where did this idea come from? I mean, it seems to be resonating with a lot of VCs right now. It really a lot of insight for startups. Where did this all begin? Were you in the shower and then you were like, Eureka, this is the book? How did this come about?
So to be honest, it all happened in the wine cellar of Ilya, who is a big fan of wine. And we started to discuss that. Both of us were curious why some of my clients were very large Fortune 500 corporations. They somehow miss so many opportunities in the market. They somehow are disrupted by small startups, venture-backed startups. And something is wrong about that, because they had all the access, large corporations had all the access to talent, distribution, network, knowledge, R&D labs, but still they missed so many opportunities. They missed their own Amazon, they missed their own Meta, they missed their own OpenAI somehow. So what's going on there? And that's why I was curious. And it seemed like that the core principle is the mindset. So the mindset of venture capitalists is a bit different from traditional mindset, which we call a traditional mindset for the one that you would expect to see within traditional organizations. And that traditional mindset is to minimize risks, to minimize variability, to make sure that you calculate everything before you make a decision, that you make the decision once and then you skip that for 5-10 years, there's persistence. The venture mindset is different. And we outlined 9 principles based on the very large survey and study of venture capitalists, as well as through interviews with them. So say one principle is that home runs matter and strikeouts do not. What it means that if you think about the venture capitalist portfolio of a VC fund, you will make about, say, 20, 30 bets on different companies, early stage companies. And majority of them will be failures. About 15, 16, 17 of them will just drastically fail. So you will literally write off all the investments right away. Say for 2-3 companies, you may get a return of 2x, 3x, which is amazing for an ordinary, regular investor, but not for VCs because of those failures that I've just mentioned. And only one single opportunity may return 10x, 100x, 1000x if it is Meta or Google or Amazon. And so the fear of a VC is a different kind of fear. What we're all afraid of. We're all afraid of failing, our project, our business. For a VC, the failure is to miss that Google. So if you start to think about that, how to make decisions not to miss your Google or your Amazon or your Apple or your ChatGPT, OpenAI, how to do that. So that was the starting point. And then we outlined these 9 principles, which I think is quite different. And we all can learn from VCs because we deal with uncertainty more and more often. What is LinkedIn now discussing? DeepSeek. DeepSeek is now erased yesterday, like $500 billion valuation of a company. So it's a huge change just because of a single small startup.
So I got a quick question. So what I'm hearing you say is there's this contrast. You called it de-risking was kind of the mindset. How can we look at these opportunities and figure out how to not lose, as opposed to these 9 principles is this is how we're going to win by saying yes. Is that what
That's right. How to take risk, but in a smart way. What would be the right set of principles? What kind of mental models would you prefer? What is the mental model to use and to apply? Still not to lose all 20 bets that you made, but at the same time still not miss your Google.
Right. Essie, chime in on this. I know you are looking at a big deal flow day in and day out. Talk about this perspective of, we're going to talk a little bit more about the 9 principles in the venture mindset, this de-risking. What are some of the best practices based on your experience that you found to be effective picking winners? And we can see if we can build on this.
Yes, absolutely. You know what Alec, you're describing is what is the common practice today in the market. This is about the opposite of how we go about the market, and that's because we're disruptors, right? And we can talk about why this is a great time and why the opportunity is absolutely right to take out those old dinosaurs who are essentially elephant hunting. But the essence of VC, and I remind that to every entrepreneur who asks me, but this VC told me I need a technical co-founder. This VC told me that it's a power law. This VC told me this and told me that. The very one common denominator is VCs are hired by their own customers, right? Their limited partners, to make money. And so there is a single incentive, which is very black and white and very measurable, which is, are you going to make more money with this investment versus another? So the risk profile is really kind of a time value of the capital, and when do you deploy money and when do you make money? So now when you go under the hood and you look at how do I invest, you have to pick the right companies. Most people in the Valley right now says that's the only game that matters. I fundamentally disagree with that. But that's where this idea of a power law comes about. And the idea of the power law is actually, to most of the customers that you're used to work with, completely unacceptable. Like, hey, Walmart, hey, Microsoft, you should really hire me and my firm because 1 in 20 in my pilots are successful. And they'll be like, get out the door. Like, I don't want that kind of success ratio, right? But that's actually not what happens in venture. But anyways, so the venture industry right now is exactly as you described, very broken. It's all about how you pick and you don't care about the rest. We flipped the script and we're saying you have to pick really carefully, a little bit more like a corporate process. Not quite, but a little bit more. And once you pick, you have to actually add a lot of value so that your input versus your output generates a super high return. And right now the industry is very broken because it's like, I don't care about my input because somehow by playing the lottery, I'm going to get a decent output, which doesn't work. It only works for the 10% best firms out there.
So Alex, what do you say to the critics who say, well, it's all about data, it's not mindset? Because a part of I would say the old school is data matters, but yet now you're introducing this idea, these 9 principles. How do you kind of differentiate those two perspectives, but at the same time not abandon it, because you can't?
Yeah, totally. And Brian, as someone with an applied math degree, I still believe that data matters a lot. Mm-hmm. Certainly, and even the book certainly is based on data and surveys and statistics. So why I still believe that mindset matters a lot. It's just, I'm thinking about my own office at Amazon, where I launched multiple businesses, and I had on my wall press releases. When the product of one of my team members would launch, I would put a press release on the wall. And I kept all press releases, including the ones of failed projects, startups, services, ideas. Why? And some people would ask, like, why would you keep that on the wall? I mean, aren't you disappointed of that failure? Of course I am disappointed. And obviously any failure is a bad thing to happen in anyone's life. But I still wanted to demonstrate to my team members that it's fine to fail. And it actually was part of the DNA of Amazon. Mm-hmm. And actually, when I think Microsoft switched to the mindset of being ready to fail more often, that's when it started to be a bit more successful and recovered, and now it's a giant technology company.
But what does that mean, before we go back too far by that? Yeah. Failing successfully. What does that mean? How do you take that and then empower others to kind of get outside their comfort zone and be okay with that?
Yeah. Within the corporate environment, it certainly means that if your business scales, your failure should scale as well. So if you're not failing often enough, then something is wrong. Then you're not taking enough risks. And obviously, my role was to launch new businesses. Therefore, within my portfolio, I expected to see some failures. I would not be fired if something failed, and certainly if it just sometimes doesn't work. So I think it was more about how do you manage all these failures. So for instance, you could apply a very simple principle, double down or quit. That's what we write about in the book. Mm-hmm. You don't have to make a very big, bold bet. You may want to make small, bold bets and wait and receive more information. So it's almost like in poker when you cannot make a huge bet right away. You have to wait and see what the next card is going to be. Similar to Airbnb, when you think about Series A, Series B, Series C, Series D, you collect more and more information. So you discover more, and as you discover it, then you double down. Or you quit in case something doesn't work. For instance, at Amazon, we typically prefer to launch pilots within a single zip code, but within 90 days or 100 days, so that you would see the result and the feedback from customers right away. As a product guy, that's the most important piece of information that you should expect to see. This is the main risk. It's not a technology that would fail. It's typically not the sales process that would fail. It will be all about the customer feedback. Is there a product market fit or not? And if there is no product market fit, you should be fine to close that initiative and that internal startup or real startup if you act as a VC.
Yeah, SC, I see you shaking your head in agreement. Is there more to add to that? Pile on.
Yes, absolutely. I totally am with Alex on the culture of experimentation and the growth mindset that comes with that. A lot of you, I'm sure, who listen to the show have read this book, the mindset book about the growth mindset. You don't fail, you learn, and you don't succeed, you learn as well. The one thing that I would add to that is that investing is not a game of luck. It's a mix of luck and skills. And if you want to win a game, that's actually from, I see you shake your head, Alex, the Michael Mauboussin book on the laws of investing and success. There are different ways that you win at a game of skills versus at a game of luck. Skill, you win with research. And so because investing has some element of skill, you have to do some research. And then it's also a bit of luck. And so you have to increase your odds of getting lucky. And your odds of getting lucky come from your ability to follow a process, which is where discipline in underwriting investments come into play. And so to be a great investor, you have to know a lot about a topic, which is the culture of like picking markets and so on. And you have to also have a super rigorous underwriting process, which is really difficult at early stage because all these entrepreneurs, you want to back all of them. You want to invest in all of them. It's their job to charm you into backing them. And so the discipline of investing is even more important at the early stage.
So real quick before we pivot back to Alec, what are some of those things that are skill that you look for that need to be honed? Because I mean, people will come to you with an idea and they're in love with it. It's like let me show you some pictures of my kids and just gush and keep going and that's what these startups are to some of these founders. They just want to keep going and you can feel them. What are some of and you need that passion because things are going to get very tough and you need to have sustainability through that. Beyond passion, are there other high level things that you look for that can be honed in terms of skills so the gap of need for luck is diminished?
So the thing is, the paradox is the more skills you have, the luckier you get, right? So it's like the harder you work, the luckier you get. Now, when we do due diligence, we look at three things. We look at the team. We have like very specific criteria, high performing team. What does that mean? We look at the traction, the revenue, the growth, the cost structure, the product roadmap, and so on, the market. And then we look at the terms. Most people in ventures say price doesn't matter. Like, excuse me, it always does. Like, I never will buy a Prius for the price of a Tesla. That's just that simple. And so that's kind of how we do due diligence. Now, those are the skills we look for in like this product that is, or this entity that is the company. Now, the process itself is where the discipline comes in. We have like a kind of a 3-step process where we first have our more junior team weed out some of the good companies for our thesis versus not. Like they meet a certain set of criteria that are a little bit black and white, right? And then we have our senior team operate from what I call operate from the guts, because they have like 30 years of tech experience, super senior, and they can recognize certain traits in entrepreneurs and teams. And that's the second step. And then the final step, my partner and I come in to make a decision. And each step, we kind of challenge the previous step. So by the time the junior folks come in, they're so in love with the entrepreneur. They're like, we got to do this deal. The senior team's like, well, why should we do this deal? And then by the time they're convinced to, we come in and we challenge it again. And we think by the time we do it three times, right, 3 sets of reviews, by then we have a really, really vetted opportunity. And so from the 9,000 intros we get every year, we get about 600 meetings with the senior team, and we make like 5 to 7 investments. And then a failure rate, right, back to the corporate question you were talking about earlier, Alex, is a single-digit failure rate because it's been so vetted.
Yeah. I cannot agree more with SC. I think it's all about, so we even outlined this as a principle, the prepared mind. So any VC has to spend time with the particular sector industry, and we've seen it so many times in our interviews. So say for storage companies, now we're all familiar with Dropbox, but by the time when Axel Partners and Samir Gandhi met with Dropbox founders, it was not such a clear cut whether that would be the company that will make it to the top storage company in the cloud. And the way that when he was asked why he picked Dropbox, why he believed in that and founders, the reason was because I just felt that that's the right company. Why? Because he met with so many other companies before. So just what SC mentioned is that you have to meet with founders in a particular sector, and then you build this, you can call it gut feel, or you can call it you trained your mind, you to some extent applied AI to your own brain so that you can actually score the company right away, or to better frame that, that you can score the founding team, and you start to believe in that company. But that's not enough. So when you have this prepared mind, that helps you to certainly identify potential winners, but at the same time you still have to be ready to say no. And one of the insights for me personally when I was, as we were writing the book, how many times do you have to say no? So if you look at the funnel, and she just outlined her funnel, we looked at the funnel across all VCs which participate in the survey. And if you think about the 100 deals that they start with, they end up with only a single deal that they sign. So think about this ratio. It's 100 to 1, to be precise, 101 to 1. So it means that you actually have to, as a VC, you have to say no 100 times. That's a pretty rough math. It means that you have to be very picky in terms of who you say yes to. And then you can reflect on your own life and on your own decision making. Are you as picky in your decisions? Do you have a funnel big enough to actually be picky? In corporate setting, definitely no. So typically you would see 2, 3, 4 proposals coming to the CEO, and then you have to just pick and choose out of them. And I've never seen big organizations dealing with 100 plus, unless it is a technology company like Amazon, Google, or Microsoft nowadays. So
when you said they could check all the boxes, you could feel good about them, and you still have to say no, I felt that. I felt that. So you could be doing everything right and be in front of the right people, but there's still going to be a no. Let's shift to the startup's perspective just for a minute. How can they read the venture mindset and take this insight that both of you have coming to the table in order to persevere in the face of, like, I meet all the criteria, I've done all the things right, and still hear the no, but keep going?
So I think that they have to read the book, just because I think it's important to know how VCs would make a decision. Understanding that what's hidden behind the scenes, I think it's critical for any startup founder. For instance, many startup founders, and I have had a chance, I'm a startup advisor as well, so I had a chance to see so many pitch decks. They're missing a single slide, or sometimes they put it right to the very back of the pitch deck. It's the team slide, which is the most important slide. So we now know that when we asked VCs, what is the most important factor for them after they look back at their portfolio? What was the factor? Product market fit, market size, patents, anything, IP, and it was the team.
Really?
Then the question is, what is the key factor for failure? It is the team again. I mean, it will vary across biotech and technology companies, but it's still the team. So that's why things like that you can easily learn about, and then you will know the rules of a game.
Well, instantly I'm thinking for now the audience member who is hanging on every word of what you're saying at this point, and SC, I want you to build on this a little bit. What is it about the team? Is it you need somebody who's got exit experience? You need to have somebody who's the engineer. It needs to be balanced with sales. It needs to be balanced with, what does that look like? It needs to have, what characteristics make up that good team?
So there is no single characteristic. And by the way, it's very important to highlight that it's the team. It's not the founder. It's not just co-founders. The initial first team that will come to a VC. And some VCs that we interviewed, they will look carefully and observe you carefully as a founder, whether you will let other team members to actually talk. Do you dominate the scene? Because as a founder, as alone, you will not be able to build a business. So you need your team members. And sometimes they will even ask their executive assistants about what was the discussion before they entered that office were in the pitch mode. So I think there was no single characteristic. Some VCs that we interviewed, they were way more focused on previous experience and exits. The other were very open to actually outsiders from the industry, because that was the only way to disrupt the industries, to ignore the rules of real estate market or agriculture market or any other market. But I'm wondering what SC leverages to pick the right team.
Yeah, I would say definitely reading your book is a great way to kind of get inside the mindset of a venture capitalist. All the points you describe, really trying to draw a line as opposed to just the one pitch, right? One-on-one interaction, group interaction, large group, small group, informal, formal, in an office, at a home sometimes, at a restaurant. That is all part of the process. I will add a few things. One is often I see entrepreneurs come in and they say, I really need to raise money to build this business. And one of the ways that I kind of form my opinion is I challenge them, like, why do you need money? We're in an era where it used, like 20 years ago when I started my career, it cost millions of dollars to start up a company, buy the servers, blah, blah. Cloud era, hundreds of thousands of dollars. Now with AI, you can build a company without people. You can build a company with tens of thousands of dollars. So if you have saved up, a little bit to start a company, which you should, you want to have, when you're, kind of just going out there, starting a company, you want to have about 2 years of runway that you can pay your bills off, right? Not be worried for 2 years, not 3 months, 2 years. So if you have that, why just not take half and essentially build a product? Because you can do that. No. I need like $3 million to just get started. That to me is saying, I don't have a sense of ownership for what I'm building. So you can call that, a chip on the shoulder. You can call that a difficult childhood. Some of the posts that Ilya is promoting on LinkedIn, which are fantastic, are saying immigrants, or whatever it is, that sense of ownership, that sense of this is my business, and it is so valuable that you, investor, should feel lucky to be a part of it. That is really what I think we're looking for. Because remember, right, the only thing that matters to venture capitalists is this accountability to their own investors. If I put $1 behind this entrepreneur, how much money am I going to return back? Because if I don't do that, not only do my investors not make more money, but I'm going to get out of business.
So I heard three things, and correct me if I'm wrong. I heard one, number one, you don't want them to be in crisis mode, right? Survival mode.
Correct.
And so having kind of that cushion allows them to be in that state of creativity, putting the idea together. And so that would be one. And so if you've got that bucket, right, you have the next one. Constrained,
but not starved. Absolutely.
Yeah, constrained, but not starved. Exactly. And then the second bucket that I'm hearing is the resourcefulness. Once you're kind of out of survival mode, you still have that creativity. You can be resourceful. There's the more of the constraint, like I could go this far with this much. And then the final one.
And I would call that a killer instinct, right? Like I got to get that deal done. I got to convert that person into a full-time hire because they're brilliant. Like just get like that winning mindset. Right?
Oh, we are on the same page, because the next one was conviction, right? So the resourcefulness and conviction to get it, because you're constantly competing, right? I mean, it's at a whole nother level. And so, Alec, chime in on this. We're still looking at the startup. Does this resonate in terms of the mindset for them to move forward?
It fully does. And the word conviction matters a lot to VCs as well. Actually, many VCs would say that conviction beats consensus, meaning that sometimes it's just enough. One single VC partner will be enough for you to get the funding. So some VC funds that we talk to, they will just have they will ignore the unanimous decision. Actually, we know now that unanimous decisions may lead to worse performance because if you think about it logically, if you have a big set of partners to make a decision, and if you're trying to hunt for an outlier like Google or Amazon, the one that you want to become as a startup founder, then that outlier by definition could not be understood and agreed on by everyone else in the room. So actually, if everyone agrees on that particular idea, then something could be potentially wrong with that idea. So that's why many VCs would prefer to have a rather than consensus conviction, and one single partner, sometimes co-sponsors, so two partners will be just enough for you to get the funding. But as a startup founder, you definitely have to be very careful in picking who you work with as a VC. So we're all familiar with due diligence from the VC end, and they spend 100 hours plus on average to conduct this due diligence. But for a founder as well, for the founding team, I think it's critical to understand who you plan to work with, because these guys will stay with you for many, many years ahead. It's not a short-term, let's sign a deal, let's get cash to our account and forget about that. That doesn't work this way. They will become your board members. They will stay with you for, on average, 8 to 10 years. So it's a very long-term game. So if you're thinking about this short-term impact, that's the wrong mindset.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear what your best practices are for these entrepreneurs as they go through their due diligence, because I agree with you. That's really, really important.
So that's the hook. All right. So hold that thought, hold that answer. Brian, take us to break, and when we come back, we will answer that questions in terms of what would be the best practices.
You like that?
That was good. That was new. All right. We're back from break. We're here with Alec Dang and SC Moatti. Before we went on our break, SC, you asked a great question. That was our hook to the second half of the hour. Ask your question again, and then I'll let Alec take it from there.
Alec, what should entrepreneurs do in terms of due diligence VC firms? So the other way around, right?
Certainly. So it's very important to understand what's the charter of a VC, as well as what is the philosophy of VC, because you just outlined at the very beginning of the show your philosophy, that you will be a very good picker. You will be picking in terms of the companies that you will look at and add to your portfolio. I think it is very important to understand that philosophy of VC, as well as the size of VC. So many entrepreneurs, they make a mistake that they ignore to some extent the size of a VC and the fund. And if we go back to the principles of home runs matter, strikeouts don't, and my example of 20 bets that VCs will make, they should expect your company to generate 10x, 100x. But you have to also look at the size of their fund and divide it by 20, 30 to see whether you're at the right stage for that VC to get interested in. So don't waste time on VCs which are not making bets at your stage of Series A, Series B, Series C, or you ignore disagree with the philosophy of VC fund. More importantly, for VCs, actually there are only 3 ways to generate and add value to some extent. Some of them are great in sourcing, so they have very early access to some startups. They're either great pickers, so they know when they see 5, 10 potential deals, they know who is going to be the winner for some reason, because of their deep expertise or any other reasons. Or they're just adding value through some of their networks or clients or expertise. And like in your case, access to product managers who would improve the chances of that particular startup to become successful. Senior advisors who may help. As a senior advisor myself, I do believe and still believe that I can add value just by giving a nice, good, important piece of advice at the right moment in time for the right company. So these are key things to keep in mind when you're getting in touch with a VC. And certainly you cannot just rely on a single pitch deck pitching exactly the same thing to all VCs.
So let's double click on that, SC, because I want to lob this into your court right now. The value add. Now, there are a ton of great pickers. They have history. They have experience. They bring a big network. But it seems like more and more VCs these days are bringing additional value adds. What are some outside the box ways? I mean, SC, you've got great track record, but you are continuing to challenge yourself. You've gone on to LinkedIn to do these comment sections. Talk a little bit how you've expanded your value add, because again, I completely agree. You've got to be aligned with values with your VC. But what other things should a startup be looking for in order to accelerate with their VC?
Yes. So our value add comes from a network of 500,000 product managers. But if you just say like, hey, meet 500,000 product managers, that's like, okay, here's the ocean, go swim, right? It's kind of hard, right? So our value add comes from the fact that we've spent the last 7 years since I started the firm and the last 3 funds that we've raised, productizing that value add. So when an entrepreneur comes to us, we can ask them, and this is all based on real cases, right? Companies like Amplitude say, hey, by getting exposure to that network in such and such way on our podcast, which is very popular, and Wanna Webby, through like a number of VIP events, we've accelerated sales by 30% and generated millions of dollars in revenue. Okay, so there's a product offering for our entrepreneurs right there. Then we've had 6 M&As out of our 30-something investments. Half of them were initiated by introductions we made to chief product officers. Okay, so there's a value there in terms of them getting an exit, which is what they're really aiming for. We've also helped teams create their entire tech stack and recruit their technology talent, not just product, beyond that. So there's a product offering there. And this is sort of plug and play. And that takes years to hone and develop and do in a way that works for the entrepreneurs without being overbearing, right? Because an entrepreneur is an entrepreneur because they don't want a boss. They don't want somebody to tell them, this is how you do it. And by the way, to your point, Alex, if I was going to tell them this is how you do it, like my knowledge is from way back when, like it's not relevant to today. And even if it was not so, it's like 10 years old, it's not that old, but it's all, even if it was just like from last year, it's no longer working because entrepreneurship is about that disruption. So the value add comes from productizing your offering in a way that is a great product market fit for entrepreneurs.
I love that.
I think the word access would be the key one to mention. So as someone who was in product role myself and had a chance to meet with entrepreneurs, the last thing that they would expect, tell me what kind of a product to buy, because that's the idea. That's why they exist. They are entrepreneurs because they know and they feel what kind of product they want to build for customers. But what they need is access to experts, access to labs, access to distribution network, access to legal advice when it's needed. So take J&J as an example. They created their own J&J labs for founders and startups, because startups in biotech space, it's pretty hard to get all of that expertise within a small startup team. So they need all that access. So I think access is something that is critical. And SC is unlocking this access to PMs and product officers so that people can try things. I'm actually kind of disappointed that many large corporations, they're missing the point. They have this access. They have all of their own users and clients and distribution network, and still they somehow missing the opportunity to test new ideas.
Oh, so okay. So often I talk about the most important things that you're validating this. What a startup needs is access, acceleration, traction, and alignment. And so if we kind of put alignment, access, and acceleration together, a good partnership opens up this war chest of resources, and essentially supercharges what these startups can do moving forward. Let's jump into the mindset again. How when a startup is positioned now with the right VC and they're having funding, there's a chapter in your book, and it may not have anything to do with where I'm going with this, about making the pie bigger. They're going after now a market, right? Talk a little bit from the perspective of the VC mindset as well as a startup mindset, what that means in terms of making making the pie bigger.
In a nutshell, it means that incentives matter, and incentives drive behavior. And if you look at any corporate manager within a traditional organization, you would then think, and just put yourself in their shoes, and they would think, do I have to really take the risk of that particular initiative? Because if in case I fail, I would just get fired. In case I succeed, my upside is not that big. And in order to overcome this problem, which we call in the book 1000 to 1001 problem, because when you're an established big organization, it's not 0 to 1, it's 1000 to 1001. But some organizations somehow succeeded in still pursuing such ideas, like Amazon Web Services or advertising business at Amazon, which managed to become huge profit-generating new growth engines for a company. How did they do that? So it's all about the incentives, is how to enable your team members to feel the ownership And in a startup world, it's literally don't be greedy. And many VCs will insist that your team members will get some stock options in your company because everyone should be on the same page and aligned in terms of their incentives. That's why, we always discuss the number of millionaires that Twitter's IPO made, but it's a part of a game. It's a critical element because as a developer, as a sales guy, as a product person, you make a bet on a company and you wait for many years with a hope that it will pay off. And in many cases it does. So making the pie bigger means that you don't have to be focused on the share of a pie in today's company. It's more of a growth mindset. So if you can make the company bigger, that's in everyone's interest. And to apply this into your everyday daily decisions, think about the incentives. If the person or your partner, your contractor, your employees are not incentivized not motivated to do the work, they will not. That's the starting point.
So let's stay with the theme of making the pie bigger. Brian, you had a question. We were all talking during the break about this news with competition with OpenAI. How does what happened with this new news make the pie bigger potentially? Or does it? Or am I off in the weeds?
So I think like any innovation, it's all about the disruption. And the disruption starts with some kind of pain right away for the established players. And what we see right now is potentially a disruption of a traditional, what we may now call a traditional set of players, which we're now accustomed to. For the record, about a week ago, I made a post where I mentioned DeepSeek, and I felt that that's an important company to pay attention to. Why? Because I talked to some AI developers and AI experts, and in the very beginning of this year, they pointed me to this company and said, wow, what is amazing is that the ROI, the amount of money spent to build a model, is ridiculously small. So maybe, and that was the quote from a friend of mine who decided maybe we should do the same. Maybe we should also build our own model and make money out of it. That actually attracted my attention a lot. And I think it also reminds us that innovation may happen in any part of the world. It may happen in Silicon Valley, and we're used to paying a lot of attention to Silicon Valley offices and VCs, but they also can happen in Abu Dhabi, in Berlin, in Vienna, or in China, or in Singapore. So innovation is, because of the cost of creating new ideas, is lower. I think it's we have to pay, our job is a bit harder now. We have to pay a lot of attention to any company in the world.
Yeah, I will say that right now, the AI playbook is being written, and so it's really easy to sort of go off on views of the world that are radically different. There's the meta view of the world, which is the future of AI is all open source. We have an investment in Grok because that's what they support. There's the view that OpenAI is promoting, that is like it's all going to be walled garden. I think it's a little bit of a mix of both, because a lot of large enterprises, especially the regulated ones, they're not going to want their data all over everything and controlled. They're going to have more like self-grown or bought models that they're going to, use to protect their own data or to kind of comply with regulations. So there's going to be a segment of AI implementation once it's at scale that is going to be a walled garden. There's going to be a segment that's open source. Which one is going to win? We don't quite know yet. The thing we know now is we're in a changing world. Rapidly changing world in Silicon Valley, astonishingly rapidly changing world. And so people don't want to be missing out. People don't want to be betting on the wrong trend. And so the minute they see a signal that's going in the direction they didn't expect, there's like massive overreaction. That's what I'm seeing. Now, the signals for that is when you look at the valuation of these companies and you say, if I invest $1 today in Anthropic that is valued at anywhere between 30 and 100 billion, like depending on the day. Or if I invest $1 in OpenAI, which is valued at 150, 200 billion, like how much farther, how much higher does it go? And then you look at Facebook, you're like, oh, 1.5 trillion in market cap. We can still go up and up and up, right? So the nervousness is because these numbers are already super high. And the excitement is because they can already go even much higher. So it's not unexpected that there's an emotional reaction.
personally afraid of giving any investment piece of advice. And the only piece of advice to corporate leaders who ask me what's going to be next and what to pay attention to, my only piece of advice is follow VCs. So they are somehow smart enough to pick the right ideas and make the right bets very early on. So think of OpenAI. OpenAI was founded as a company in 2015, and Khosla Ventures, they made an investment in 2019. And they made a very big investment, about $50 million, which is at that time was pretty big funding. But at the same time, now when we compare it now to what OpenAI and ChatGPT achieved, that's a very smart bet. So I think when you start to pay attention to VCs and where they make bets today, that is a way better source of information, not to be get crazy of all these headlines in Wall Street Journal, New York Times, and Bloomberg, because when that any news hit the Bloomberg and Wall Street Journal, typically that's already a bit too late. So you're already not talking about the future trends. You're already talking about something happening now. When you follow VCs and see where they make their early stage bets, that's something that may give you a good view of what will happen 5-10 years down the road. 80% of them will fail, but some of these companies will be transformational, will change the world. I
want to bookmark that really quick, and then I'm going to come to you, Brian.
Okay. Well, but if we move on, then my question is no longer relevant. So
okay, no, because I glossed over you last time, but I'm going to come back to that. Go ahead, Brian.
Well, you say follow the VCs, Alec, and I get that, but from a consumer end, like somebody who's not a complete insider like you guys, how does somebody know what the VCs are doing? How does somebody follow the VCs? Is that information just out there and I don't know where it is, or is it inside information that you have to kind of like really drill down and find, or is that something that's consumer ready, or that people like me can go ahead and consume?
So some deals will be available, and certainly it's a relatively secretive market, so not very many VCs will disclose their early stage bets, but many will. And PitchBook and other sources will help you to identify key deals. And certainly you can subscribe to Elias Trebelov's LinkedIn, because he regularly publishes companies which become unicorns. And that's a very strong signal. It means that some VCs valued the company at $1 billion plus. So it's a very good signal for everyone to start paying attention to not this particular company, but also to the pain point and to use cases that these companies address. I think this is way more important for users like you and me, rather than just technical details behind that specific startup, unless you are in that area or in that sector.
Yeah, or you could just follow Silicon Valley Impact, and we'll have great guests like SC and Alec on here.
And
that would be we could do like a segment like what are the VCs doing
follow
today?
The VCs,
right?
yeah.
Follow the VCs.
Go ahead, SC.
And I'll add one thing to those already excellent points, which is there's a way to get involved, which is to watch, right? To follow, and so on social media or newsletters, and then there's a way to follow where you actually ride the wave personally, and as a corporation or as an individual. If you invest in some of the venture capitalists, if you have access to investing in those, then not only do you follow them, but you also, make some profits and benefits in terms of aligning incentives.
So maybe I'll ask you about that in a minute, like how could somebody do that? But the other thing I wanted to bookmark is, if any of you have ever gone to an event and you've ran into an angel investor or VC, a startup's first inclination is, oh, I'm in front of a VC. What can I get from them? Right? Money, money, money. But here's an opportunity to maybe not be so, bloodthirsty for money, but maybe just insight, and have a conversation at these events about, hey, what's hot right now? Because asking about what you're following and what you're interested in will bring out a lot more information for you to utilize than just saying, hey, how can I frame the words that I have to get money from this person? So for someone who is always at events, I think that would be a good way. But where were we, Brian? I just kind of zoned out for a second. I got lost in my own advice.
I actually got my answer, and I think that the last thing that you just said, Brian, of if you're at an event, just asking these people, because you're standing right in front of these people, right? I mean, we're here with you all now. You're just people. You have information. You guys have both been extremely generous and kind, and every event I've ever been to, it's the same. I mean, the people I'm standing in front of, they are both seeking information, but also quite willing to impart information. And I've never met yet anybody who says, "Oh, everything I know is a big secret." The exchange.
Well, maybe. But no, but people are going to talk about what they're studying.
Sure, there's secrets, but I mean the general information, right?
Yeah.
General knowledge.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, one more piece of advice is how to make sure that you are familiar with all the ongoing trends. Is to some extent try these trends yourself. Is to start building. Like SC just mentioned that it's so easy now to build something with the help of AI. So, and we actually did that with Ilya after we published the book. We tried many things with AI. So we generated some book covers made by AI in a matter of hours. And even though that specific book cover and for different regions, it took us months to find and pick the one. And we used designers, but AI now can help you to do this in a matter of hours.
Bring it back, Brian. I want to see it again, please.
Yeah,
Can you
so
hold
for
it up
those of
again,
you who
please?
are watching on YouTube, you can see what he's talking about here. Sorry, go ahead, SC.
Yeah, the other example, we just released an AI general partner on our website, and we trained it on how we look at a deck. By the way, we don't use any of that data. It's really a service we give to entrepreneurs. You can upload your deck on our website within literally like seconds. You get really detailed feedback on your pitch deck. And that's a perfectly easy use of AI.
So we did the same thing we created custom GPT, which takes about a few minutes, where we uploaded our book. And now, unfortunately, I cannot make it public just because publisher does not allow to make it available to everyone. But I can now talk to myself and to Ilya and ask questions and get prepared for these kind of interviews by just simply asking the book and almost talking to authors of a book. Just imagine that now you can upload many other books the same way. Now you talk to 10 different popular book authors and you get instant feedback from Steve Blank and Alex Dang and SC. And isn't it amazing? So I think just by trying and building things, you will learn immediately and you will instantly feel that whether that's a big trend, and you will with AI, that it is transformational. So explore and just go there. I think that would be the best way and the best piece of advice.
Yeah. SC, before we get too far away from what you're offering, where can startups go to have their pitch decks evaluated?
Yes, if you go to our website, mighty.capital, mighty.capital, no.com, and then you see meet our AI partner, and instantly you'll get feedback on your pitch.
Wow, that's wonderful. And you're on a mission also to find the best startups. Is this the best way to kind of get the ball rolling in order to have a second conversation with you or your team?
So we actually never look at those decks because we want entrepreneurs to just have it as a tool for themselves. So from our standpoint, think of it more as it's a marketing, right? It's not a sourcing. The way we source our opportunities is through our massive product platform. Every year for the past 8 years, we go to these product managers, 500,000 of them, and we say, hey, what are the companies that you think are doing some cool stuff? And it's their job to bring that innovation inside their corporation. So they give us so much insights. This year we got 9,000 nominations. And we tell them, like, the best ones, we'll give them an award. We give hundreds of awards every year. And then those 9,000 nominations, we look at them as opportunities. Some of them are super early. Some of them, like Google gets nominated, right? Like, so there's a lot of different nominations. And that's how we find about 80% of our investments, through that grassroots approach.
So tell me, what's a project manager? What is that? Is it, because when you say project manager, I'm thinking someone who's in a corporate, there's they're buried inside of corporate America, but I'm getting a feeling it's not what that is.
That's exactly what it is. A product manager is the person inside a corporation whose responsibility it is to take technology and turn it into business value. What happened is actually really interesting and has been fantastic for Mighty Capital is up until COVID, essentially, these product managers, they were, just like you said, inside large corporations trying to influence engineers and designers and marketers to get innovation inside corporations. But with COVID, all of a sudden, people realized, like, oh, if I'm not a technology company, I'm going to be obsolete and go out of business within the next 10 years. So now every company wants to be a technology company, which means that the role of product manager went from relatively tactical to completely strategic. And to give you a data point to back that up, in 2020, 2021, there were about 3 or 4% of Fortune 1000 who had a chief product officer. And that number in 2024 is 40%. So 10x in 3 years. So everybody is appointing chief product officers, hiring product managers, and saying, oh my God, like technology is critical to any sort of business competitiveness, market competitiveness. And so these product managers are all now completely strategic to corporations, and they're the ones that are at the tip of the spear, right? So to your point about why are corporations not innovative, we see that it's completely changing because people like you and I, formerly, right, product managers, are now running a lot of these corporations.
And these product people, they're bringing their different mindset. The mindset of a user in mind, how to launch products so that it would resonate with the user. They're accustomed to smaller teams, and that's another big shift for many corporations, is how to deal with so-called 2 pizza teams, or teams of 8 to 10 people, which could be fed by 2 pizzas, which is a term from Amazon. And this is an amazing way to actually kind of create a startup within the corporate environment. The trick and the problem for any Fortune 500 company, the company that I worked with at McKinsey, was that the idea is just we bring one single person from Meta or Amazon, and that would be enough. This is not enough. So certainly it's a lot about the mindset and the shift from cultural perspective. How do you make decisions? How do you fund and budget all the new projects and products? So it's all about way more complex environment in the corporate setting, and it just takes time, and it takes many people being involved. But I think the product mindset is something that's truly transformational.
Yeah, we got about 2 minutes left to go.
You do not have 2 minutes left. You are wrapping up now.
Wrapping up now. Okay.
Yes, indeed.
Before we sign off, I want to encourage everyone to check out The Venture Mindset. And Alex, where can people find their copy of the?
You may imagine that the number one would be Amazon, but you can actually find it in Barnes & Noble and different countries. It's now being translated into 10 languages. So wherever you are, if you're in the US, that will be this cover, and it will be available on Amazon. If you're in UK or in China, you can also buy a local version of the book. So, and it's getting available pretty much worldwide.
Okay. And SC, what's the best way to connect with you in Mighty Capital?
Connect with me on LinkedIn, SC Moatti, or email me, sc@mighty.capital. Easiest is on LinkedIn.
All right. I want to thank you both for being here. I wish we had more time, but that's it for today,
I wish
Brian.
we had more time, too. It went really, really quick, and you guys are amazing, and I could do this for hours.
All right. Once again, thanks to our guests. Thanks for listening. We'll see you all next week.